Oh, went live a little bit later at 4 o'clock, but that's fine. We got a lot of things to get into. Most importantly, we're looking at Africa. Google Earth. Treat this as an almanac of the planet. So when I look at something here, I'm going to pull it up on Google Earth before going into the wildfire, just for better context to where we're looking at on the globe. Senegal, Nigeria, Cameroon, to Mali, to Chad, and Sudan and South Sudan are countries we've been looking at for no reason other than just monitoring large outdoor fires. There's a large outdoor fire, probably covered it on here, and I probably passed that information along. And the fires are this large, all we can do is watch. But it's better to understand how these fires transit, how they migrate, how they cross borders. And firefighting in Africa is only something that I'm beginning to understand because it's a lot of wildland outdoor firefighting, a lot of wildland conflicts. It's difficult to get heavy machinery out there, and most countries don't have it. Also, Nigeria is a country of over 230 million people. It is of importance, and they're surrounded by wildfires. It is breaking news. Several countries are experiencing a sort of an endemic epidemic of wildfire, brush fires, bushfires, while they cross borders. And if wildfires cross from Burkina Faso to Mali to Senegal, which country is responsible for that fire at what time? If Senegal just puts the fire out to their border, up to the East Senegal, to Mali, to their strange boot-like shape of a country, south to Burkina Faso, they're not going to put those fires out. This is we're seeing a lot of political strife, coups, especially I believe it was Ghana and Niger. Niger wanting to pull out the European Union alliance. Central African Republic has been seeing violence. Uh, and there's been violence in Mozambique, but I think that was largely due to ISIS. Uh, Other violence. But the South Sudan, Central African Republic, seeing a lot of disturbing violence, as well as the Ethiopian to the Eritrea Tigray war, very bloody, very horrible, very recent, still ongoing. But we're looking at West Africa. We'll start in Senegal. Let's open this layers. There must be a layer. Well, I was hoping that Google Earth would have a lot more information, like when you click on a volcano and it pops up with the summit information. With that, with the countries at hand, but that's for another day. Let's tuck that away for now. Just an almanac of the country that we're looking at, like, oh, it's population of 230 million people. Let's see, let's barrel on down to Senegal. The eastern side of Senegal has been seeing an rage of fires that's continuing to burn further west and west. All these dark, patchy areas. All this wildfire, bush fire. All these dark spots, scorched earth. These fires, they make up so much space, or take up so much space. They grow large fairly quickly. See, that's still as Burkina Faso that we're in. Okay, so we're settling down on Chad, where I can already see a number of wildfires. Go back a few more days to see if we can get their quality right here like that. Now the date's on the top right hand side. On the 6th. Paid. $16th. 21st. Slide. And that's the last slide. So fire starts here in the top and the bottom. Races along, smolders for a few days. It becomes this really deep-seated fire only until recently. This is up here in the 6th, 26th. Fire is not random, but it is all over the place. More fire down here. We're only looking back for a month. The whole month of November. So it's largely clear of fires. Let's say start from here. They just rage and build up. Harrowing scenes. was clear. 6th, 16th, 21st, 26th, fires introduced. Continues to burn. Completely looks like it gets wind whipped, like material gets whipped around and then gets blown southeast or catches a ride and smolders. Comes this really deep-seated fire right here to the east side. It's gonna burn here. Connect these two fires here. Connect these two fires here. All of this. All of this will burn here. Not all at once, because the fire is gonna move here, and then it'll do this. Gonna do up here. Gonna repeat again and again. These fires, when they start, they don't really stop until the season's over. But what if your fire season doesn't have an end date anymore? We're seeing fires that burn longer, that go for days and weeks and months. Australia's only been seeing their fire season since August, and they're seeing record amounts of blazes. It's pretty crazy to see these kind of brush fires in Africa. These are significant, large fires that have been burning for weeks. Firefighting in Africa, I'm not too totally sure on right now. There is so much strife and turmoil, grief throughout the continent. So many countries in Africa are experiencing political turmoil and military junta rule. I have no specific take on the matter, just protecting civilian lives should always be the first case scenario. Like, anything that happens, we have to protect our people. We have to protect the people that aren't just our people. A lot of that going on in South Sudan, Niger, and Ghana. It's alarming humanitarian crises. It's all these governments that are having issues happening all together at once. Could set an amount of contagion, economic contagion, across the entire continent. Plus, you have shipping, trade, you got food issues. The Russian-Ukraine war interrupted a lot of that. It sent back a lot of people that were studying abroad as well. We have here, right in the middle here, that's a pretty good fire. Got some bunches here, some burned scorched earth, clay. That little ring in one day became all that. All that's gonna burn here. And it looks like this fire is gonna rage down. Okay, back. And say honored. We're looking at the country of Chad, a landlocked country in central, northwest, west Africa. I can't remember exactly. Area, Cameroon. If I move my head, you'll see some fires here. Yeah, just right by my head. Right there. Looks like some spores. Those be fires. Okay? Fire rages. There's some massive fire games that we're seeing. Okay? Push play. You can see us fire one more time. Clear ground right now. Except right here. There's a little tiny fire right up there. That starts all the trouble. These fires are dozens of kilometers gains. Just a few short days. Yeah, right here. A lot of fire. There are huge swaths of land. Fire can be a naturally occurring element, but nothing thrives under smoke. Okay? There's no argument that can be made with fire doing good, and the smoke is going to kill everybody. India and parts of Africa are setting alight records amounts of previous crops. They're burning the crops. Purify them? Why do they keep having to destroy the richness that they do all year with their soil enriching it, why aren't they mulching in previous leaves of previous uh, cultivations? Why does it have to be like perfectly clear of any remnant of anything at all? Because if you're talking about prion disease, mad cow disease for cattle, and you want to use this land for cheap beef, you could use napalm and dig 3 feet of earth up, move it someplace else, and you're still going to have prion disease. It's insane just the amount of terrible air that we're seeing coming out of countries like Pakistan, India, due to and some parts of Africa, due to farmers and companies burning their crops. It's madness, and it's causing epidemics of respiratory illnesses and failures. But that's not what we're seeing right here. This looks like a bunch of brush fires that are turning into a wildfire. Make a complex of outdoor wildfires that don't seem like they could be easily tackled. Getting more interested in firefighting in Africa. Not something I hear about often. That's all of it. Let's run on this fire and see what we can find out. Active fire front right here. Cloud constructed. Continuing to burn further west. Another fire starts north of it that probably traveled. That probably how the fire traveled, because you can see here, all connects. Fire travels the path of least resistance. It'll burn anything. Massive fire perimeters here, here, along here, and is heading towards a river. Why is a river important? Comes to fires, you ask? Why should people being anywhere near this river with this kind of fire be alarmed? Because, as we've learned over countless examples, say you have a river here, you have this wind that's blowing south over the river, over the ditch, canal, and whatever have you. Just a graded, scooped, just lying on the ground. Here we have the fire. That as soon as the fire comes down here, let me fire. There. A little better. Sorry, going too far up there and I didn't realize that that arrow was not showing. So you have this is the wind that's blowing south. You have here fire. Now, what's going to happen? Testing. Sorry. What's going to happen is the fire is going to use slope to its advantage The fire is going to use this momentum, any vegetation that it can burn to survive, it's going to move its way up. One of the reasons for this uh, phenomenon is as the fire goes over the slope into the canal system river, over the bank, say that the wind is blowing west over the surface of the water. So until it gets around to this level above the water, as soon as it catches it, it's going to start fanning it, start pushing it across the river. So I've seen where rivers are burned along its riverbanks for miles and miles and miles because they keep getting this loop, arcs out, arcs out. You have this fire that comes here and does this a few dozen times, and they start burning land in familiar shapes, so it starts being this union symbol that is constantly moving. So these are complicated fires because A, if you're standing there and you don't see the smoke, you're not going to know there's a fire. You don't always want to approach every river system in Africa that have fucking crocodiles in it for all you know. Don't do it, or hippos. Either way, there's too much wildlife conflict. But is it possible to have one or the other? Like airdrops, I don't know what Africa really does in these countries. There's so many countries that are having so much political strife and political turmoil and military junta turmoil. I just hope that the armies weren't the ones that were responsible for putting out large outdoor wildfires. Because if that's the case, a lot of these countries that are having a really hard time are going to be a worse time when these fires start kissing their feet. I'm sure there's a formula here. As soon as the momentum, it just starts seeing these familiar shapes. These like arc, they look like smiley faces. Fire does a lot of insane, crazy stuff. Things that you wouldn't believe. Turn back on my Firefox. Carbon-based life forms, we don't burn, but it hurts like hell. We can be burned, we can be set ablaze, but we're not going to catch on fire. Our clothes will, our hair will, our skin might, eventually, it gets hot enough. Alright, I don't know why I'm going down this way, probably because it's due to the amount of brush bush and wildfires we are seeing out of Chad. It's between Chad and Cameroon. We're seeing this explosion of. Now you see this right here. This wildfire. Can travel so many miles of distance because A, it's blowing hot material all around the place and it's fumbling around. B, it can set ablaze low-lying vegetation that's in the riverbank that can race, smolder for days silently without as much of a notice. So fire cheats death a lot in these river systems. And then it's just desert up there. You don't want more to be desert further south than Chad, you know? Feels like anywhere I zoom in, it's gonna have fire. But how much fire? Where the fire came from? Right up here. That is a hell of a fire run right there. That's overrun like hell. This is by an airport here. See some fire. See what the hell happened here. Both clear open spaces and rain. So play one more time. Airport looks like it's gonna be hit. These fires are just starting here. See that? A little spot right here. That's a fire. And it starts that. So in one day, this is gonna connect here. Fire here. Really bad places to be in, surrounded by so much fire and so much fuel. This is Nigeria now. Nigeria is a country of 230 people. Seeing wildfires like this country is pretty difficult. Fires are just piling on. Whoa. Got some glare right here. Really gotta figure out how to zoom in on windows that I'm working on inside OBS. That'll be nice to zoom in on that, but I can't right now, so I play 14 frames. Fires don't stop. Northern Nigeria. Terrifying level of speed that this fire breaks out. Currently burning the areas that it just was at previously, so it's doubling up on its fuel. It's burning fuel that it already had access to before. It's leaving by smoldering fires all over the place. That's a nasty looking fire. Damn. That's a deep-seated smoldering fire. Look at that. Look at it just engulf the land. There's all the brown you see, the yellowish. Those are all that yellowish coloring is from previous burns. Then you have this deep-seated fire that's starting the whole cycle over again in the same area. It just, you hear that connects. Just an explosion of fire. Starts all over again, but you see how many. Let me zoom in. That's insane. That is not a digital representation on satellite that represents fire or anything. This is what it looks like. If you had a camera yourself and you had a camera up that high and took a picture, it would look like this. This is how the fire would look like. Fire is long, it's wide, it's engulfing the area, and it doesn't behave in the way that you'd expect, especially if you've never seen a fire on the outside. Try to put it out with a hose. You ever had like a bonfire that got loose? Something common. But to see like this fire burning, like this is revenge. This fire is coming back again. This is northern Nigeria, and this whole area burned already. It looked like it was out, but these fires are never truly out because we do not know how far these fires can actually burn. Roots of a tree, how deep they can go. Wildfire severs the roots, tree falls over, tree starts to burn. These things happen. Especially whenever the fires are left largely unattended because of the complicated task of putting them out in a deep part of the woods, wilderness, field work that is. I don't think they have smoke jumpers in parts of Africa like this, because wildlife conflicts would make it too risky. Whereas if you just like descend upon a pack of hyena, cheetah, anything that just run, take a swipe at you, take a lunge at you, lions. You already have a lot of gear. You can't be fully armed compared to the teeth as well. You also probably don't want to kill a bunch of animals just to put out a fire, even though the fire might hurt animals. So wildlife conflict is just too much. Too great. Lepers as well. Fires are just running across. These fires are burning really close to Andagora. Fires are massive in comparison to that city. Police are able to combat them. Obstructed. That's only 10 to 20 kilometers. That's nothing. These fires are massive, and looking at patchy fieldwork, it looks like these fires are just running amok. Look at the size of these cities, the buildings, the scope of the scale that we're talking about here. Here's a building. Talking about fire possibly overrunning a modern city, an industrialized city. Nigeria. Nigeria, country of over 230 million inhabitants. People. These fires are becoming dangerously close. Because what we're seeing is not really exact firefighting. If they're just keeping it at the spot where the fires make it to the east. But these fires get complicated. The longer they burn, the more they burn, the more they ruin. And nothing thrives under smoke. Nothing. Smoke is sticky, and smoke only wants to stick to each other. So using smoke as a blanket, you can travel under it under superheated circumstances, like let's say the air in the wildfire is over 700 degrees Fahrenheit, like a wall of heat. Hits anything, going to be incinerated, or it's probably going to die. It's not really people or anything burning to death per se, it's the air that gets so hot that it's running around as a wave of flame, wave of fire. And that's what combusts things. It's not that things are combusting because it has fire near it, because the tree became 1500 degrees Fahrenheit and just started popping. Oh my god. My cat did something adorable and incredible. Now he's sleeping under the tree. Right? So that's Africa. Not all of it. We looked at Nigeria, Cameroon, Chad, Senegal, Burkina Faso, and Mali. Quite a few plate regions that cover a lot of ground, but these fires are really tearing apart the countryside. all West Africa. They look to be pretty mobile, high intense burns. Now this smoke, this is looking pretty bad for Queensland. Queensland. Say in about another hour or so, I'll try to stream again, looking at Australia. Because as of right now, this storm is barreling down into Queensland, and it's gonna rip out flames out of the ground. Smoke's gonna be going one way, fire's gonna be going the other. This could be building up a massive amount of fires as well. It's this looks like a sheet of smoke that's just hovering above Queensland. Let's go into the night before. All these are separate wildfires. Every cylindrical shape, tube, whatever have you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Can't count them that way because there might be tighter fires together, one here, one here, one here, and they're all on the active same perimeter technically, but they're all joining together in smoke. That's what we're seeing. Eruption of fire, followed by now it's hazy day. Still not seeing air pollution ratings that make sense in Australia because they don't have any air pollution stations or systems. There's actually probably a fire that's across from Western Australia to Northern Territory right here at Balbalgo. I don't see any representation of any fire right now. It doesn't mean that there isn't going to be as soon as the sun warms things up. Once this sun hits and it warms stuff up, might see some things. A lot of humidity on the coast, a lot of precipitation, a lot of drought in Western Australia. I'll have to wait for Australia because it's gonna get pretty bad. All these wildfires, dozens of wildfires, having wind, just horrific storms that are just generated all around here. Plus, you'll get lightning and other reasons for other fires to start. You start needing to prepare. Prepare for fire, prepare for flooding, prepare for heavy winds, high winds. And a lot of problems are here. There's a lot of factors right now with this storm. Best of luck. I really hope these fires aren't taking hold, because this storm is going to rip these fires right out of the ground and they're going to race. Alright. Well, on that note, I will cut it here, but I will be back later whenever there's anything to report back on Queensland and Northern Territory. Sure, there's going to be like a massive sheet of smoke. I don't see any active fires yet, but you can't see the fires until it's daylight. Gotta wait anyway. Alright, well, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Thank you if you have already. I will monitor this. Report back.